All right, young scholars, as we have done previously, I'm going to start the week off going through, in this instance, our last two slide decks where I'm going to make some points based on these certain slides. You're more than welcome to read through the rest of them as you so choose. Then we are going to download and work with this water sports rental app today. And we're going to modify some of the conditions within there. So within this chapter 11 slide deck, on slide number 6 here, you see this information about persistent data. So this is data that you enter once and you have to infrequently enter again. So for example, if you log into an app, it may be your login info. Once you log in, it might ask you to log in maybe once a month thereafter. Or if you log in on another phone, on the internet, it may log you out and you may have to log back in that way. But in essence, that's what persistent data is. Data that stores values permanently by placing the information in a file. So like I said, you log into an app, it may not ask you to log in again for a while because it's persistent. It's stored somewhere for you for a long period of time. And like I said, the most common instance is if you log in to the app on another phone or on the computer, and it locks you or knocks you out of your initial login on the phone. You go back to use it on the phone, you'll probably have to log in again. So as you've seen with Android Studio, the emulator takes a lot of resources, but ideally when you publish your app, it doesn't have to use an entire phone's resources because that will limit downloads and purchases. So you probably are going to have internal storage used for your app. So this way, okay, everything's in the app. They don't have to necessarily download every part of it. They just download the app. But once it's downloaded on the computer, on the phone rather, they need to have enough resources in order to run that app. So that's why if you notice you have a bunch of pictures or videos on your phone, it's best to upload them or sync them up to the cloud and then download them to another device if you need to, rather than have them all stored on your phone because they take up a great deal of resources. And then lastly, I want to point out the whole database connection point within the chapter 11 slide deck. So basically, what you've seen while we've used Android Studio is the build Gradle. That is in essence connecting to a database. It takes up resources on the front end so that it's easier to access on the back end. So every time we do one of those imports, it brings in information beforehand in order for us to use that information. And as you'll see with our example today, we're going to have one of the buttons will send a user out to a website. Well, that needs to connect to the web. Databases are often stored on the web. So that's why when you see that Android X, these are all what are called repositories that are databases stored online for everybody to access. Then for our last slide deck of the week, when you're using Google Play, you've noticed you can download apps through there. There are different kinds of stores that I've mentioned. There's also Amazon App Store, the Hawaii App Gallery, Zeomai, My Get Apps, Aurora. But before you want to publish an app, now obviously for this class, you may not necessarily be doing that. You're just doing it to present it towards the end of the semester. You want to test the app. Does it work? You want to prepare it for publication. When you post it in one of these app stores, will it actually work? Then you have to create the package they require and sign their application. I believe I mentioned earlier in the semester with Google Play, it was something like they take 15% from your sales or however much you earn based on the agreement that you sign with them. And then prepare promotional materials and publish the app to Google Play. So I'm going to stop there and pull up the homework for this week, homework assignment 5, which ties into that. So for homework assignment 5 due on Sunday, you're going to be asked to provide a response describing how you would monetize, in other words, make money on the app you create. So the two most common ways are you advertise, you have some kind of advertisement within the app. Somebody looks, they're going through something, and ads keep popping up. Or the other way is to charge somebody to purchase the app. It's also common for you to have an option to charge somebody to get rid of the ads. So you may say like, oh, okay, give us $10 a month to have the ad-free version of this app. And then they pay the $10, all the ads disappear. And if you have ads, you're usually in an agreement with some other company. Oh, give us $500 a month to post a little message about your company, an ad. So that's what it's mean. What's involved to some degree with preparing promotional materials. Additionally, you could create your own ads, your own flyers. You know, you may go on a television show to promote your app, something of that nature. You may send out a bunch of emails to people like, oh, join my app. And then they ask them to email it to other people, their friends. You might put a flyer up in the student center. Something along those lines would be promotional materials as well. And then once it's available, it's up on the Google Play Store as an example. It lists your app along with all of the other ones. And it's available at this point by over 190 different countries. So by the end of the semester, that might be up to 200 different countries. But again, some people tend not to want to go with the Google Play because they may prefer to have it on a Mac. So they may go for the Apple Store. They may go for the Amazon App Store. Whatever specific your app is geared for, generally there's going to have a more appropriate app store, if you will. Some people build an app and just make sure that it can run on anything, like a Candy Crush, for example. Okay, we want iPhone users and we want Android users and we want Amazon users. Whereas I believe some of you have mentioned in your homework answers that you noticed more gaming options on Google Play, like emulators, because they're much easier to put together in Java code than they are for a Mac. So lastly, but not least, you've all seen that Android Studio is either in Java or Kotlin code, and it translates code for an app that allows for accessibility and availability on multiple platforms. The same thing can be done within our strings file, where we could create, as we've done before, all of our code in English, or we could also include a translation. So I'm sure you've all used Google Translate before. You would be able to go to Google Translate and copy all of your code in English. So if you were to go, say you wanted to translate in Spanish, you go to Translate for the Google app or online, Google Translate, and modify those changes as needed. And you would put all of that within your strings.xml file, as you've all seen that we've used in previous classes. So as I mentioned, we're going to work with this water sports rental today. So go ahead and download that. And it will show up like so as a zip file. Then you'll right click, extract all, and then you'll have a regular folder for us to open within Android Studio. And once you've gone ahead and done that, it will open and build off on the left like you've seen many times before. So again, you're going to want to download that zip file, unzip it, and then open it within Android Studio, as that's what we'll be working on today. Once it all builds open here, you'll see these files that I've opened. We have 3 separate Java files. We have a kayak and paddleboard image within our drawable. We have 3 separate layouts. As you saw here, we have a strings file that has an app name called Water Sports Rental. As you see here, kayak image ties within our kayak.png, and paddleboard refers to our paddleboard.png. But you'll notice if you sync and then run this app, that all it has is 3 options pop up here: Glass Kayak, Paddleboard, and Water Sport Rental website. So if you were to click on Glass Kayak, our Glass Kayak image shows up. If you were to click on Paddleboard, our paddleboard image shows up. Then if you were to click the Water Sport Rental website, as we'll see once everybody opens all of this, and we're going to go through and change some of this. Once you were to click on that, it'll open an actual website. So go ahead and type in the chat once you have this downloaded and loaded in Android Studio. So again, you download that watersportsrental.zip, You'll have a zip folder like this. Right click it, extract all. It extracts it all, creates its own folder, and then you will open that folder within Android Studio and wait for it to build so all your files are visible here on the left-hand side. Okay, now it's ready and loaded. So while we're waiting for everybody to go ahead and load that through, I'm going to make this loading of the app bigger and show you all three examples. So if we click the glass kayak, it simply shows that image. Just as I showed you. It's hooked into that string name kayak. When I run the app again, and click on the paddleboard option, it simply shows that paddleboard image we've created. And when I run the app again and choose that third option of going to the water sport rental website, it opens within the emulator a Google Chrome instance. And it goes to joepaddle.com. And it may or may not necessarily load the web page because obviously this is an emulator. It's just simulating what we're looking for. And you notice after a little bit, it did eventually load that specific page. So hopefully after I went through and did all that, everybody's now up and loaded. So first I'm going to open the main activity.java file. You'll notice what we're doing here is creating instances where we're looking to determine where the on click is. So when you rerun the app, you see there are those three options there. That is what the on-click listener does. Which one of those three options are you selecting? Now, we showed you how to create views last week, but this function on item click has three separate cases. The first case, kayak, as you see, glass kayak. So that is now tied into the kayak class, which we see over here, kayak.java. So if we click that button It's now going to do whatever that kayak class tells it to do. In the second case, it will do the same with the waterboard. So we click paddleboard. It now works and requires the waterboard.java class to be run. And then lastly, the third case, where we would click water sport rental website, is already built in. So it's already set up to go to jopaddle.com. Okay. So Dwayne is still loading. That's okay. I'm just going through the code for right now. So again, as you see, the first class relies on the kayak. So it relies on that kayak class. The second instance relies on that waterboard class. Then the third instance, we're simply opening that Java or jopaddle.com. So within the kayak class, all it's doing is referring to this activity underscore kayak.xml file. So you see, whatever that layout is set up, that's what we're going to do. Within the waterboard.java, it is now referring to the activity underscore waterboard. So you notice we have three layouts here. Activity main is set up, list view. All that literally does is employs our main activity file to show your three displays. But we need a kayak screen. So when we open activity underscore kayak, once that button is clicked, all it does is spits out that kayak image. And similarly, with the waterboard, activity underscore waterboard, all it does is spits out that paddleboard image. So what we're going to do today is modify this a little bit. Instead of being water sports, what's an idea, a topic? What do you like? Sports? Sports is okay? Okay. So my two favorite sports are baseball and football. So let's do that. We'll change this up to, professor's favorite sports. We'll do baseball and football, and then we'll have some kind of sports website there. So to do that, we're going to change water sports rental to let's just say professor's favorite sports. Once you sync, run. It's going to give you an error. Because our app name needs to match our app. So we go ahead and file and sync that again. We have no issues. But if we want to change all of the other displays, we go within our main activity.java file to do that. So you see here, glass kayak, paddleboard, water sport, rental website are our three options here. So let's say the favorite sport is baseball. The second favorite sport is football. Now, what do we want to call the website? Just sports website?
Yeah.
So then if we sync those changes, and run the app, once it runs, all of those three options should now change to baseball, football, sports website. So baseball, when we click that, we'll just show the paddleboard. Football, when we click that, actually baseball, when we click that, we'll show the glass kayak. Football, when we click that, it will show the paddleboard. And sports website will go to that JO paddle.com. So since that is the easiest one to fix, let's go ahead and change that. What do we want our specific sports website to be? Could be as simple as just ESPN. What do we want it to be? Okay, Dwayne says ESPN, so we could just go in and change the JO paddle to just ESPN. So this way it's ESPN.com. So we go in now, sync that. And then run our app again. Let's see if this works now. So when we click on the sports website, it should now take us to ESPN.com. There it goes. And we have the option to click on one of the pages on there, etc. But in order to modify what happens with kayak and waterboard, we have to change them. So since kayak is now going to be baseball, let's go in and change that to be baseball. Since waterboard is now going to be football, let's go in and change that to be football. And you'll notice that they both turn up red, that there's some kind of problem. That's because we have to change the names of our classes as well. So when you right-click kayak, there's supposed to be a rename option. But I'm not seeing it. So let's do this. Right-click your .com example and create a new.
Professor, actually, I found it. You have
It's
to,
there.
yeah, you have to click on kayak and then right click when it's in your window. So like not there, but in
Oh,
the
okay. So
window.
up here, you have to right-click.
Yeah.
Okay. So double-click kayak to open it so that it shows up like so. Then right-click it, and you'll see this option, rename file. We're going to change the kayak file to be baseball. And go ahead and click refractor, which makes that change. So then when you go back into your main activity file, once we sync all of this, baseball will be perfectly fine. And then you'd open your waterboard and do the same thing, rename. And this one is going to be football. And then refractor. But you'll notice that the baseball app says public class kayak. We have to change that as well to baseball. Then within our football, we change waterboard to football. And when we sync that all together,
Sir, no, it has an extra class that says waterboard underneath football on mine.
you have an extra class that says what?
Waterboard and kayak.
Okay, so once you go ahead and make these changes, so in the baseball class, change kayak to baseball, public class baseball. And then in the football class, public class waterboard to football. Once you do that, then go ahead and file sync, and it gets rid of those extras.
Okay.
See how before I had like one of these carrots next to baseball and football? And under baseball, it had kayak, and under football, it had waterboard. Once you change the name of the football class, public class football, and for the baseball class, public class baseball, and then go ahead and sync, it goes ahead and gets rid of those.
All right.
And then we're going to have to do the same thing for our activity kayak and activity waterboard. So we changed this from activity underscore kayak to activity underscore baseball. And then for football, from activity underscore waterboard to activity underscore football. So then we have to change our activities to match that. So activity underscore kayak, we now rename it to activity underscore baseball and refractor. And then we rename our activity underscore waterboard to activity underscore football and then refractor. But then you notice within each of them, we have issues. Dot kayak. Oh, it no longer exists. Okay. So now we need to change it to dot baseball. We no longer have an IMG kayak. We change it to IMG baseball. So those are the two changes you need to make within activity baseball for right now. Then you do the same thing within activity underscore football. We changed that waterboard to the football class. We changed the IMG paddleboard to IMG football. And we should go ahead and file sync and have no issues, hopefully. And we have no issues. Excellent. Okay. So now, what do we want to call the image for our baseball page? We have kayak image and paddleboard. So what do we want to change that to be? Okay, just simply say football and baseball. Okay. So we can go ahead and change in our strings file. The string kayak is now baseball. The string paddleboard is now football. So when you open activity baseball, that content description, okay, now it just says baseball. It's taking that kayak string. That activity underscore football, okay, now it's just taking that football string. So if I click on that, it shows me the string. So here it's string paddleboard. Let's say I wanted to change that. I go back into strings and I change the string from kayak to baseball. And I change the string from paddleboard to football. When I go back into activity baseball, I have to click that text that said baseball. And now it says add string kayak. There's no longer a kayak string. So I have to change that to match the baseball string. And then in activity football, you'll notice the same thing. The string slash paddleboard, we don't have that anymore. So we change it to, match our string from the other one, where we've called it football. And we go ahead and sync that. But we notice we still are using those same images: paddleboard and kayak. So what should we do? Let's go find some images. So I search for a baseball image. I click Tools, Usage Rights, and I either use Creative or Commercial license. So I'm going to use Creative because we're using this for creative purposes. And I played baseball for years. I always liked the scuffed up baseball. So I'm going to download this image here and just call it baseball. You can pick whichever image you so choose, and then do the same for a football image. Could be your favorite team, could be your favorite player, whatever specifically you want to do. And if you're so inclined, you could even use a soccer ball, because technically, football is called football, soccer. Okay, that's not going to work because it's a web image. So I'm going to pick a different picture. I'll pick this and then save it as, no, of course not. Another web image. Let's try this one. Okay, good. So I'll save that simply as football. And now we have our two images. So wherever we've saved those images, in my case, I simply save them to downloads. I'm go ahead and cut them and paste them to where they need to go. So if you open your water sports rental app, you'll notice the app folder, the SRS for source, and then main, then res, and then drawable. You'll notice there's no images there. Okay, that's fine. There's a drawable version 24. So you double click that, you'll notice the kayak and paddleboard images are there. You then paste your baseball and football images you've just downloaded to them. And now, assuming all has gone well, they should show up within your drawable folder here, baseball and football. So we go ahead and run this app. You'll notice that if you click baseball or football, for some reason it went to the ESPN app. So it should just simply pop up the kayak image for baseball and the paddleboard image for football. For some reason, it still has the ESPN app open. There we go. So it should be when you click baseball, we just get the kayak image. And it just hates us today, apparently. It was working okay. Let's see if football works. Okay, it just doesn't like us for the minute. So when we go into that activity baseball.xml file, what do we need to edit here? This last line of code here that says @drawable/kayak. That's still using this kayak image. You hopefully went and downloaded a baseball image for us to use. So we'll go ahead and change that baseball image. Then you're going to do the same thing within the activity_football. You're going to change that @drawable paddleboard to your football image. So you'll know it looked right when you scroll over that @drawable, whatever you saved your file name, when it gives you a display of it here. Basically, a preview window pops up. So I'm going ahead and sync that. Now, hopefully this time I run it, it'll show up properly instead of just popping up with a random web link of Joe Biden like it did previously. Okay. Click football. It just doesn't like us today. It keeps wanting to open the web instead of the football image like it's supposed to. Let's try turning it on and off. It's had too much fun today. Now it wants to close the app. See how fun Android Studio Emulator is with all of these fun resources that are required? So anyway, hopefully you get the gist that it's going to change that image to baseball and football instead of kayak and paddle. The issue may be, so if you open this folder called manifests, if you open Android manifest.xml, we haven't changed our constructs within there. So waterboard is now football. Kayak was now baseball, correct? So if you open this Android manifest.xml within the manifest folder, your first activity should be called football. The second one should be baseball, because initially it was waterboard and kayak. Now we could also change that top label here. So here's where you would change it from water sports rental. Let's say we call it, instead of app name, app title. So we change it as app title. So we go back to our strings and we change app name to app title. Then we say, instead of water sports rental, favorite sports. And then go ahead and sync. And hopefully this time it will run without any random internet pop-up with a random looking picture of Joe Biden for no reason. Okay, so now notice our title was changed. Favorite sports instead of water sport rentals. Let's see if it actually works this time now. No. But as I mentioned, you get the general idea. When you click that baseball app, it should be showing whatever the baseball image you have is. When you click football, it should be showing the football app. Okay, so Zaza's works. So Zaza knows exactly what is supposed to be displayed. So it may simply be that because I opened that ESPN link first, that it's now being a little finicky with me. Let's see. I close it and reopen it entirely if it will show everything as it's supposed to. Okay, file, sync project with Gradle files. Then once it's built, I'll go ahead and run, and hopefully it actually works properly this time. Okay. Okay, I'll try football one last time. Okay, there we go. So that's the way it should work now. Where you click the baseball possibility, it gives you the image you downloaded for baseball that you changed. You click the football, it gives you the football image that you have. And then you click the website and it will go off to ESPN. But I think as Dwayne pointed out, sometimes it's a little tricky with these apps because we don't have a return button. So on Wednesday at some point during the class, I'm going to show you guys how to specifically make a back button on your viewing window. So this way, if you had, okay, I want to go from football back to the main screen, okay, you'd have a little back arrow here. You click it, you'd be able to go back to the previous window. Okay, so that's all I had set up to cover today. Little basic modifications of this app here that you can go ahead and use in the future. That could even be an idea for your app. You might even create multiple different options. Let's say your app could be, I don't know, your 20 favorite websites. You would just have to change all of these strings, have 20 that match, and have each of the websites labeled. And then all of your cases would match case number 2, but obviously it would be 0, 1, 2, all the way through 19 for your 20 different options. So again, for homework due Sunday is that homework assignment number 5. Provide a response describing how you would monetize an app if you created it and wanted to put it out into the public. So keep in mind that there's only a few things left to do for class. We have this homework assignment number 5 due on Sunday. Then you have homework number 6. That's the last homework. Then you have app number 3. And then the only other thing left to do is that group project, creating that app that you're going to give the presentation on the last week of class. So you'll notice with this week, then next week, the following week, and the following week, then we have No classes for Thanksgiving. I gave you off that Monday because it didn't really make sense to just have class Monday. Nobody will probably show up anyway. And then that following week, you guys will meet together with your groups. I'll pop in on Zoom if you want to ask any questions specific, and then you'd be ready to give the presentations that following week. Now, since we only have 3 groups, it's more than likely that everybody, or every group rather, will be able to go on that Monday, December 4th. And if everybody can get it in on the 4th, I'll probably have like an extra credit exercise for everybody to do if they need to on that Wednesday. So this way we have all those classes set. So again, since this is kind of an easy homework assignment, feel free to go ahead and think about it today and get it done as soon as you can so that it's done by Sunday night. And like I said, you're more than welcome to do homework assignment 6 early too, if you so choose. So this way you're just focusing on that last mini app change for app number 3 and the group project. So have any of you met up with your groups yet? Or just set up like a group chat? So I would go ahead and set up like a group chat. And as I mentioned over here on the groups tab, all of the groups are set up. You can go and send each other messages. I know your generation tends to use that group chat text. So go ahead and message each other. Here's the numbers. Let's talk. Because even though, as I said, that's still a ways away, you know, you'll have work for your other classes you have to do. So, you know, next week, over the next 3 weeks, kind of get an idea of what you're going to do. And then those group meetings, basically try and execute what you're going to do. So if there are no other questions, I bid everybody adieu, and I will see you all on Wednesday. And as always, if there's any questions, feel free to email me in between.
About the monetization homework, sir.
Yes.
Can can it be a gaming app or just a
Yeah.
regular app?
Like Candy Crush, they have that's a gaming app technically, and they have like built-in you know, like I think you only get so many lives a day, and you could pay extra money to get lives, and pay money to, like, there's what are called built-in purchases, and you pay money to basically make purchases within the app in order to advance the game. So you could do the same thing. Like, say you were playing like a Pokemon game. Say you created something like that, a Pokemon app. And to advance the game, you know, you could have them buy potions right within the app. So whichever kind of gaming idea you have in mind, that would be perfectly fine. You could mention that. But they would be called in-purchase apps, like Candy Crush offers. So
Okay, that makes sense. All right, sir. Have a good day.
you too. Thanks. Any other questions? Take care, Nia.